Hello everybody, how are you doing today? And welcome back to the garden. It's a glorious spring day, lovely, sun is shining, still a bit chilly at night, but the days are lovely. In today's video I want to do some transplanting. I have my tomato seedlings and my sweet peppers, so this is going to be the video today. Let's go. Okay, so here we are, middle of April. It's about time I transplant my tomato seedlings. They are getting a bit leggy. I have 3 varieties, 2 cherry tomatoes and my beef tomato. I need 3 plants of each. And looking at this tray, I think I have 5 to 6 of each plant. And also I'm going to be transplanting my sweet peppers. I already managed to drop the tray, so they definitely need to get transplanted today, otherwise half of them gonna die. So that's the plan for today. I'm gonna be using my standard pots, about 5 centimeters across, and my garden soil. I just dug it out from the garden a minute ago. I have it here in the wheelbarrow, might be out of the frame, but that's what I'm gonna be using. And there's nothing to it really, just trying to get the plant out of the tray and putting them in the soil in the pot. I think I'm gonna tip it all out. Actually, I saw the seeds in straight lines, 3 lines of seeds. Looks like all of them germinated. It's 5 or 6 seedlings per line. I might use a knife and cut it into blocks so I don't mix the varieties. Let's start with the beef tomato. They were sown in a garden soil as well, so it shouldn't be much of a shock for them to transplant into garden soil again. Now the funny thing is, we need to get them out without damaging the roots, or at least damaging as little as possible. So here we are. I left the soil quite dry on purpose, so it's easier to take them out. And here we are, 1 seedling and 2nd seedling. They can go in the pot. Let me just quickly show you. As you can see, this is quite a leggy seedling, but with the tomatoes you can bury the stem as far as you wish. It should grow the roots along the stem, so that's gonna fix your leggy seedlings and give you more sturdier plants. So what I'm gonna do, just get a little bit of soil at the bottom of the pot, not much at all. Put the seedling in. I like to hold it with my 2 fingers and fill the soil all around the plant. And here we are, from a leggy seedling to quite nicely buried plant. I'm gonna do that with all of them. First of all, let me put the label in so I know what they are. As I said, I need only 3 tomatoes of each variety. I have red cherry tomato, dark cherry tomato, and my own beefsteak tomato. I couldn't give you the precise name for the varieties because I've been saving the seeds for years and years, so I don't remember anymore. But that's the plan for today. Let me quickly go through all these plants and I'll see you back here in a moment. Okay, that didn't take long at all. I have all my tomatoes planted. I ended up with 5 plants of each variety. Actually, the red cherry tomato, I have 6 plants, and all the rest are 5 plants each. Now the question is, where am I gonna keep it? My greenhouse is kind of full at the moment. I might need to move some stuff around to put the seedlings on my floating shelves. I think what I'm planning, yeah, that's gonna be the best idea. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put 3 plants of each variety in the greenhouse on the floating shelf and keep leftovers, 2 each, 3 of the red cherry tomatoes back in my conservatories. That's where the plants were growing since I sowed the seeds. Just as a backup, the nights are still getting quite cold, 2, 3, 4 degrees only. So the tomatoes might not like it that much. Without the frost, they shouldn't die, but they might slow down quite a bit the growth. But it's a good thing, actually. It's still quite early. I'm not going to be planting them straight in the soil yet. I still have my Mizuna flowering in the greenhouse. I'm planning to collect some seeds from it, so I still need a bit of time. But that's the plan for the tomatoes. Now, my sorry looking sweet peppers. I wasn't planning on transplanting them just yet. They just got first true leaf on most of the seedlings, but trying to fish out my tray with tomatoes, I dropped this one on the floor, so I don't have a choice now. They're gonna all wilt and die if I don't plant them straight away. They most likely gonna all have to go in a greenhouse on the second floating shelf. I don't have enough space in the conservatory to keep them in single pots. They're gonna take way too much space. And the planting of my seedlings is exactly the same as with the tomatoes. The only difference is you can't bury them as deep as you want. Slightly deeper than the original level of the soil is fine, but nothing deeper than the seed leaves. They're gonna grow slight amount of roots from the stem, but nothing like the tomatoes do. The tomatoes you can bury almost the whole plant and it's gonna root on the whole length of the stem. But the peppers are not that versatile. So yeah, I'm gonna start planting those in the pots and I'll catch you up when I'm done. And then we can try to feed them somewhere. Okay, and here we are with my transplant. They are really sorry looking for themselves, especially the tomatoes. They wilted straight away, but I think after watering, I gave them really good water. Actually, I might move them to the end of that tray where the water is standing to allow the compost to soak in all the water. But after watering, they should perk up quite easily. They were quite strong plants. I don't see any problems yet. As I said, the only issue is keeping them somewhere. The nights are still quite cold, especially in the greenhouse. So I'm not quite sure how they're gonna perform in the greenhouse, but nevertheless, I'm gonna put 3 plants of each variety in the greenhouse and monitor them and monitor the weather as well. I don't think we're gonna get any frost. And I'm gonna keep the spare in a conservatory. The main issue is with my sweet peppers. I ended up with 44 plants. I think that might be a bit too much for my conservatory, and I don't really want to put them in the greenhouse. The peppers are much more vulnerable to the cold weather than the tomatoes. They might stall and get stunted. So I'm not quite sure yet. I think I'm gonna have to make some space in the conservatory and keep them in a conservatory for another 2-3 weeks before moving them in a greenhouse. The other thing I wanted to mention, I said at the beginning of the video that I'm using my own garden soil that I dug out just from one of the beds. I think it's much better to grow the plants in your own soil, especially if you're going to plant them out in your soil later on. The seedlings are getting adjusted to the soil that you're going to be planting them in straight away from germination. That's the same soil I use for my trays to put the seeds in. Now I'm using the same soil to transplant them into the bigger pots, and then they're gonna go in the greenhouse directly into the soil as well when they are big enough. So I think that's better for the plants. They don't need to adjust to the new conditions all the time. The only issue with the soil is you might get some weeds germination. That's always going to happen. There's weed seeds everywhere in the soil, but that's not an issue. You can easily weed it, especially when you're growing stuff in small pots. And the other drawback of using the soil as compared to compost is the weight of the pots. This whole tray, over 40 plants, it's quite heavy. I don't think I can move it all in one go. I'm going to move them bit by bit, wherever they're going to go, most likely in a conservatory. But yeah, on the balance of things, I think it's better to use your own soil, and it's much cheaper. You don't need to buy extra stuff for your plants. But now we have all this sorted. Let's have a look in the greenhouse, what's happening over there. Okay, so let's have a look in the greenhouse and see what we can do. You might have noticed I installed the mesh door again for the summertime, so the greenhouse stays open all the time. I just close the mesh door. It's just a frame with some mesh that I attached with a wire on the top, nothing fancy. But as I was saying, the greenhouse is completely full at the moment. The potatoes in my pots are taking the whole middle section. They're growing quite well actually. Here on the left, where the tomatoes will go eventually, is all my Mizuna. I left all these plants to collect the seeds. As you can see, it's working so far, but they're gonna need a few more weeks to ripen. That's why I need to keep my tomatoes in the pots for a couple of weeks. On this side gonna be my sweet peppers, but it's actually occupied at the moment by lettuce and parsley, which I'm harvesting daily. I have more lettuce than I can use really. So the only option is my floating shelves that currently are occupied by garlic in self-watering pots. But I think it's about time I can move this garlic outside. They don't mind cold and frost. They were just growing a bit quicker here in the warm than they would normally do outside. I have some garlic growing outside already in some pots. Just over there. So I think I'm gonna move those self-watering pots and put them next to their cousins. Let me do that. And now I just need to move those trays and put them in the greenhouse, and that's the job for today done. Alright, and here we are. That's the temporary home for my tomato seedlings on one of the floating shelves. I hope they're gonna be alright here. I have a couple of spare, I think 7 altogether. That's gonna go to the conservatory to grow in a more protected area. But I think this is good enough for the tomatoes, at least for now, for another month or so, maybe less than that, until they can go get transplanted in this bed here. And here on the trays are all the other plants that I haven't moved yet. Those here are the spare tomatoes I've just mentioned. They're gonna go in the conservatory. And my tiny sweet peppers, I would prefer for them to be slightly bigger before transplanting, but I think they're gonna be all right. I decided I'm gonna have to find some space in the conservatory for them. I don't wanna risk losing them all to cold weather. It's April in UK, you never know what's gonna happen. So most likely, well, definitely, I'm gonna move them to the conservatory so they can grow a bit with their buddies over there, the tomatoes. Okay, and here we are, all the transplanting done. As I said, I ended up with 44 sweet pepper plants. I don't think there's space for that many in the greenhouse. but I'm gonna pick the strongest one before transplanting, but that's in about 3 weeks, I would say, no earlier than that. The tomatoes, some of them are moved to the greenhouse to grow on in the pots, and the spare gonna go with the peppers in a conservatory as a backup. It's much warmer and controlled in the conservatory compared to the greenhouse. But yeah, that was a nice transplanting session. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that's all I have for you in this video. The weather is glorious and it's supposed to stay like that for a couple of days. So I'm going to be doing lots of sowing and maybe some planting in coming days. I hope you're going to join me in the upcoming videos. But yeah, for now, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you back here very soon. Bye.